Welcome back to the Football Fanatic channel, and we've got news, and it's not looking pretty good for Manchester United again. I know I keep seeing that in every video that I make for Manchester United, but it's against Brighton, and it's pretty soon. And it's looking a little tough for Manchester United. I mean, I don't see a victory coming to our hands, or I don't see us winning this game solely because of the fact that Brighton are just a very, very good team, but they haven't been, getting those wins. But I mean, in contrast to the match that they won against Ipswich Town, which is a 2-0 victory, but which is pretty decent for them. They've been getting a lot of draws lately, but yeah, they did manage to get the win. But in hindsight, it's still going to be a little difficult for Manchester United to grab this victory, and it's only solely in down to the factor or the fact that Amad Diallo is the only one who's technically performing for Manchester United. But if you look at the other players as well, like Garnacho, maybe Zirkzee or Bruno Fernandes, who they've also been performing as well, but not in terms of scoring. But yeah, playmaking, you could consider that. I mean, they've been getting a lot of assists, or maybe they've been helping out Diallo to score goals. That's what's been happening. But what is it really going to take to beat Brighton? Firstly, Fabian Hasenhüttl, I think that's the manager for Brighton Hove Albion. He's a really good manager. He's performed really well in his former clubs as well. I believe he's someone who can take Brighton to good places. But right now, since the Premier League is pretty competitive, it's going to be really difficult for him to reach that spot that he's looking for. Maybe he's the top six. But Brighton is the team that wants to keep possession of the ball again, somewhat like Brighton. But United are going to be on the counter a lot, and they're going to be they're just not going to be wanting to keep the ball more than Brighton. They're going to they're just going to be on the break and like just try to get those counter, play the transitional ball like how they usually do. But that just comes down to the defense for Brighton Hove Albion. I think JP Van Hickey is, I hope I'm getting the name right. Um, JP Van Heck. Yeah, that's the name. But that guy is someone who's very versatile, can play as a centre back and as a right back as well. He's pretty good. I think he's really good for Brighton. Uh, Estupian is also another good choice for Brighton, who's going to be really good at. Mostly, he's going to be pretty good at making those attacking runs, but I do feel like Manchester United are going to be caught on the break as well from Brighton, because Brighton were able to put a lot of goals in for this entirety of the season through counters, but mostly it wasn't through counters or transition, but they build up pretty good. They're a very good build up team. They like to keep hold of the ball. They would like to keep it on their feet, but it's not something that Manchester United would be very concerned about. Um, it's just really down to the players. What Manchester United could improve from the Southampton game, which was a couple of days ago, is particularly pressing. I think Manchester United are going to have to really, really press against Brighton Hove Albion, because it's just solely down to the fact that they keep possession, and they Manchester United haven't been pressing that well. You had players like Ugarte and Meno who weren't pressing well in the midfield, and just didn't move forward into the pitch or into the forward areas of the pitch. I think, in my opinion, it was just maybe Fernandez and Hoyland who were making those runs. Even Hoyland was kind of a bit, out of it. Maybe it could be just down to the fact that, Arsenal were, they played 120 minutes against Arsenal, and it was just a very tiring game for them. But all things considered, they need to be really aware of where they are, or where they want to be pressing in particular areas. I think uh, since we're gonna have Diego Dalot back, I think Dalot is going to be really helpful on the left hand side. So I am expecting Garnacho even to start from the left. It is a possibility. Uh, my 11 for United is probably going to be Onana, of course, at the back. Back three of I think Euro is going to be rested because he didn't really have that good of a game. Um, I think it's going to be Maguire, Delict, and Martinez who's going to be the back three for Manchester United. The midfield, could be a little different. Maybe it's going to be Meno or Ericsson or Ugarte or Ericsson. Although I'm preferring Ugarte more because he's more of a ball winner and the anchor for Manchester United. So I think it's going to be Ugarte and Ericsson. On the right, I think it's going to be probably Amad Diallo because he's more lethal from the right hand side than he's on the left. So he's not going to be playing that usual right wing back role. On the front, that's going to be Diallo and probably. I don't think Zirkzee did get a chance to start, but I don't think he will either again. So it's going to be Fernandez and Zirkzee on the attacking midfield end. As for the wing backs, it's going to be Mazraoui on the right wing back, and left wing back is going to be Diego Dalot, and striker, of course, Hoyland. I don't think Ruben Amorim is going to be wanting to favor Joshua Zirkzee over Hoyland only because of the pace that he offers and the creativity that he offers. You've already got very creative players like Bruno Fernandes and Amad Diallo, who's already they're already good at playmaking. So I don't think there's going to be too many playmakers on the pitch. So I think it's just down to the fact that how United are going to, counter well or press well against Brighton, because that's one issue that I think could be very, dangerous for them. Speaking of Brighton, some of the key players that are going to be very essential for Brighton, or maybe the lethal threats for Brighton, the front three of João Pedro and Mitoma, they're going to be very very lethal. There's a possibility that Danny Welbeck might start, although I don't think that's highly very unlikely. Evan Ferguson is out injured. I don't think he's going to be playing. Um, as for another forward who I think is pretty good, but he could be dropped into the midfield, which is a possibility, which is Jorginho Ruter from Leeds United. Leeds United recently sold Jorginho Ruter to Brighton Hove Albion this season in the summer transfer window. I think he's a really good attacking midfielder or a striker. He can play the 9ish or the 10ish, whatever you like to call it, in both of those positions. I think he's going to be really good for them, although I don't think he's going to be starting. Solly Marsh is also a pretty good midfielder. I think he's going to be really good or beneficial for Brighton. Having got this squad what Brighton played against, I think Ipswich. Um it was Mitoma and Ruter who scored. So I do think Ruter could have a chance to play. Uh, yeah, João Pedro, again, he's going to be very lethal. He's already scored what a comeback against United. Maybe, I think it was this season or maybe the last season. It was pretty good for João Pedro to score those two goals. Veltman is going to be a pretty good right back. JP Van Hecke is, well, as I've mentioned, he's pretty good. Estupian could be really good. I have no idea why, as the likes of, I think it's uh, what was the guy's name? Yeah, Tariq Lamptey is a good right wing back or a right back. Pretty injury prone. He's not starting for Brighton for a very long time. Not a very long time, but not a regular starter. Although he should be starting. I really like the way how Tariq Lamptey plays. Used to be an English international until he changed his nationality. But yeah, I mean, Brighton have a pretty good squad. They haven't been the best at what they've been doing. Uh, they did pass the ball around against Ipswich Town. They had more of the possession. The shots on target was a lot more than Ipswich, which is, I don't think it's a bit of a surprise because considering Ipswich are in the contention for being relegated. But even against like big teams like Arsenal, they've managed to keep hold of what they've been doing. They've had more shots than Arsenal. They've had more shots on target than Arsenal. Although they did keep less possession as compared to Arsenal, which is it just comes down to the fact that they're a smaller team and these smaller mid-table teams don't really like to keep possession that often against these bigger clubs or the big six teams. But yeah, I mean these players are particularly very very good. As I've mentioned, Matt O'Reilly, JP Van Hickey, and those Estupian type players, or maybe from the bench, I'd say Jorginho Ruter, that would be pretty good to replace João Pedro. But yeah, Brighton are a very possessive heavy team, similar to Southampton. They'll not be pressing Manchester United that often, like how Southampton were constantly, but they'll look for those spaces in the Manchester United defense to pass through those areas, or maybe in the midfield. So that's one issue, or that's one relative issue that Manchester United should be looking at. That's where Ugarte has to come in, maybe to stop those balls from getting in behind the defense. So that's one particular area, or that's one particular thought that I think Manchester United should be focusing on. In terms of this is like in terms of the physicality aspect or the tactical aspect, and in terms of an emotional aspect, or like maybe a little more towards the um, how do I say it? In terms of the mentality of the players, I think they're gonna have to consider that this is every game is just as important as those big six games, those City games or Arsenal or Liverpool's or whatever those games are, the big six games or whatever you like to call it. You need to win these games as how you're determined to win those big six games or those big important games, because it's just considerably, you're having a very considerable miserable time in the league. You're sitting at 12th in the league. You were recently 15th after before the Southampton game. So you really have to step up into the top six or top five spots if you really want to uh, contend for even the Premier League title in the next couple of years. Let's say about 2-3 years or so. So I think that's one aspect that they should be looking at. The fight in Manchester United that they need to win each and every game. I don't see it yet in a lot of those players. Um, I mean, I don't want to call out a few players, but I will. Mazraoui was very consistent in the beginning of the season. I've seen a drop off in form from Mazraoui. Hasn't really been doing much for Manchester United. Dalot has been, getting a lot of attention from the referees. I'm not saying that it's particularly bad, but it's just something to look at. You're picking up cards. Players like Fernandez, even they've been picking up cards. Even Martinez, they need to get a hold of their composure more often and set things right for themselves. That we want to play, we want to commit to the team, but we don't want to overcommit to a point where we're collecting cards or getting the attention of the referees. So that's one aspect to really look at. I don't think getting cards will be an issue in this game, but the mentality will be from players like who've been underperforming very recently. I'd say Mazraoui or maybe Martinez to some extent. Delict had a really good game, I think, at the Southampton game. Ugarte and Meno are someone to look at when in terms of saying that you didn't have a good game, particularly in this Southampton game. But yeah, those two are the players that I do wish would perform better in this game. It just depends on the fitness. As Amarim said before, I think the Arsenal game, that they had two good, really, really good training sessions, which led to them being better. So I think it's also down to the fact that how much experience or exposure they're getting from their manager, or those training sessions that they're putting efforts into. So that's another aspect to look at other than the mentality of the players. So that's how you want to settle in to win those games or win those crucial games for Manchester United. So that's a few aspects that I've noticed in the past few games or in the last game against Southampton. And yeah, that's how I think Manchester United should be going forward, or going with the season's progress. That we want certain things to go right in our way, and we want certain things to be improved upon, whether it be on the transfer end or whether it be on the pitch end, which consists of being physically important, like physically fit to play, or being mentally fit to play. I mean, you just need to have that mindset and that body to play. You can't be, I mean, the manager asking you to press high up the field and you're not doing it. I mean, like players like Casemiro don't do that, or like even players like Rashford don't track back when they're asked to. So yeah, I think that's a few issues that I've noticed in the past few games for Manchester United, and I think that should be improved upon. And these are the some things that could be a problem for Manchester United in the Brighton game. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think about Manchester United against the game in Brighton. What's my score prediction? I think it's going to be an L for Manchester United, unfortunately. But the best case scenario could be a draw, which is, I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And the worst case is probably a 3-1 win for Brighton. We're going to see, probably we're going to see either Fernandez or Fernandez or Diallo on the scoring end for Manchester United. And, I could see João Pedro or Mitoma even scoring for Manchester United. They really have to, hold down the line on the left hand side of the pitch, which is I think the right back area. So Mazraoui is going to be, he's have to be on his A game against Mitoma. He's a really good dribbler. He's a really good ball carrier. I think he's going to be really special against Manchester United. So they have to, keep this thing in mind that certain players are a threat on the pitch. So we need to be on our best that day. Can't afford any mistakes. Can't afford any mishaps or whatever. So yeah, that's what I think about the Manchester United and Brighton game. And that's about it for today, guys. And thanks for watching. And do subscribe to the channel Football Fanatic on YouTube and Football Fanatic 003 on Instagram. All right. Thanks for watching and cheers. Bye bye. GGMU.